Check, 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 check. Okay. Check, check, check. Check, 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 check. Okay. So all aboard who's coming on board. Seems rather quiet. Let me see what's going on here. That looks right. That's all the way up. Check, 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 check. Oh, now it's gone quieter again. Now, how is that? Check, check, check. Yeah, it's about right. Okay, so let's start. This is dropping in at Pipeline Audio number 30. It's just some updates, some nonsense. Got a lot of people practicing drums and a lot of clicking and clacking around here, so this might be a little bit noisy in the background. But I'm also trying out the OBS noise suppression plugin, and for all I know, it's just destroying everything. So far, so good, it sounds like, but let me know what you think about it. Just seems to have like one control, and it sounded like it was working pretty good to me, so I was going to leave it alone. I had the AC on earlier, and man, that thing is screaming loud. It's a window unit. Yeah, my whole studio is window units, so ends up working out really well, but it's not the quietest thing, so I always have to cool it down ahead of time and do all those things that you get tagged for in back in hotter places. But luckily, except for global warming, oh, there goes half my audience. It's cool enough here in Hawaii. So I'm still continuing, getting those kids bands going, and we have some older bands as well. And of course, we're trying out a new one. One of our really good players from Operation 7.5 and two of the newer students who just started at the school already making a band. That's some that's some charging, go ahead, motivated kind of thing that I like to see, and that's usually the ones that get going. But I brought up the whole thing all the time when just the setup takes a long time. Guitar player coming in, setting up a bunch of pedals, messing with the amps. Everybody's always touching knobs, and you're an hour into it before anybody even started doing anything. And that was a lot of the impetus for the bringing the studio to the stage I was doing a couple of years ago, and still working on. Don't think that I'm forgetting or I've stopped doing that. But ideally, you just pull up with some software device and turn it on, and your sound's already there. You don't have to sit there and fight the whole time, and you can have the same kind of setup every time and not really be worried about it. And especially mud. I'm always fighting mud. No matter how good you are, if you got a bunch of mud, you know what I'm talking about. Just a bunch of low mids, and just each guitar is eating up the sonic landscape so much that there's not much room for anything else. You got to turn up this and turn up that, and pretty soon it's just a bunch of really loud mud and a bunch of feedback. And the better our software can do, the less of that we're going to have. You know, you can have just a focused guitar sound and not any of the junk that you don't want in there. And just being able to set up fast, you know, that's the whole point of this stuff. You know, why should you have to replug in stuff and do all this crazy junk every time you want to play on stage? It is just, you know, what century is it? What millennia is it? You know, we shouldn't be having to do any of this junk anymore. All that stuff should be taken care of. And in a lot of ways it is. And there's a lot of devices out there that let you do it. But even then, you have to put the work into it. If you don't, yeah, you're still going to end up messing with that. Even the most powerful, you come up here with a Helix or a Axe Effects, whatever, and if you hadn't taken the time to set it up right, you know, you're still going to end up fighting all the mud. You're still going to take a long time to set up, all that kind of stuff, you know. So get that get that taken care of ahead of time. And which brings me to the next thing is the Boss GT1. You know, a lot of our kids want to use that. It's a really good processor. I know for you guys that don't like modeling stuff, you probably hate it, but the Boss GT1 is awesome to me. It has a lot of different sounds. It could have a little bit more flexibility. Maybe I was using it wrong. It seemed like I couldn't change. There was one that was an OD and one that was a preamp, and I couldn't change those to be a different kind of effect. But effects 1 and effects 2 I could change to be different effects. You know, I wanted to do this acoustic sound, so I needed the acoustic simulator and I needed a compressor, and that seemed to have taken up the two that you could change what they were. I think it was effects 1 and effects 2. But if I'm wrong about that, if you can change some of the other pedals to being different types of effects, let me know. Also, that thing has 3 buttons on it, and I swear I had my friends set up where all 3 buttons picked patches, and that's all they did. I think you held 2 of them together, it turned into tuners or something, but I couldn't figure out how to get this one to do that today. So what I wanted to do is for all 3 of the onboard pedals, just one to pick one patch, one to pick another patch, and the third one to pick another patch. I don't need the looper. I don't need any of that other stuff. Right now it's set up so that 1 and 2 are patch up and down, which is okay. But I'd rather have the direct call up the patches. And number 3 turned on or off a control. If anybody knows how to do that, please let me know. I'm looking at the chat right now. Doesn't look like anybody is saying anything about how to do that. So I'm going to leave that alone. Also, on the pedal, I want the volume pedal to be bypassed if I choose, and I want the other pedal to not do anything if I switch on it. Or I'd really like it if I could use that pedal to choose something else, like the wet dry mix of the effects on the acoustic one. If anybody knows how to do that, let me know. But I really like that Boss GT1. It is a killer processor, and so I just set it up in this case for basic clean sound, distortion with effect sound, and that was good enough. You could plug that in and get going right away and just really have an awesome sound. It did feedback a little bit, so I probably want to, I think I want to customize those top 3 knobs. I think you can, to just directly get to some parameters that I'd like to mess with. Patch volume, and then, you know, maybe the gain or something to keep that feedback from happening. Again, if anybody knows these GT1s really well, let me know about it. Another thing I wanted to get to was there's a lot of plugins that do this, but Bias Effects 2, it's always doing this to me. Like you log in and then you want to do something, or not you log in, you load the effect just like you always had on your same computer. Maybe you had a mix going and you had Bias Effects on there, and then when you want to go do something, it asks you to log in. That is terrifying, like especially if it happens live. You know, you want to change something. I'm not sure just which parameters are not able to be messed with if you're not logged in. For sure, the tone cloud. Please remember your settings, at least on the same device. Please, please, please remember the settings. Don't make me go looking for passwords, especially in my case where I had to delink Facebook from my Positive Grid login. That's kind of terrifying when you're trying to show customers something and you can't get to it. Please, please, at least remember it. One of the reasons Reaper's honorware, and for a piece of Reaper history here, we had a friend who was doing a golf. He was broadcasting a golf contest for ABC or NBC or CBS, something really big. It was this golf contest going on, and he was broadcasting it. And one of his plug-in or his DAW or his broadcast system or whatever asked him for a login before he could even get to the parameters he needed to change, or if he could even get to his broadcasting. I can't remember which. But this was a golf contest either on a Saturday or Sunday. There wasn't anybody to call. So he was just completely, he could have been in real trouble. He was able to actually borrow a Zoom, like what was HN4 or whatever, the one with the 2 mics on it, and plug into a broadcast truck that another one of his friends was using. They still had some bandwidth, but he got really lucky. That could have been his career right there. He's supposed to be broadcasting something. He can't even run it. Anybody who's running these kind of plugins, please, think about situations like that. I'm sure there's a way to come in with the protection. I know how important copy protection is. I'm not even going to use the FT word, but I'm not one of those guys. I understand you need to protect your property, and but we can come up with better ways of doing that, man. That's some scary stuff. Then we had a last minute something that happens from time to time. Some of you band guys might know about this. We have a monthly thing that we have agreed to play. And, it's actually hard for me. I'm in and out of the hospital and in and out of the doctors. And it's really difficult for me to keep this arrangement, but I do, because I know how important it is for our kids to actually have a place to make sure they can play live at least once a month. And I know how hard it is to get that, especially here in Hawaii. So no matter how sick I am, I make sure we can do this. And we did have some new kids that were going to do stuff this week. And as usual, we promote the hell out of it. And we got a cancellation last second on it this time. And, I'm not sure that this is what happened, but you've been through this before. A lot of you have, if they're doing live. When you got somebody, we call them vultures. You set something up, and the other guys don't help at all, and then boom, as soon as you got it all working, here they come. We used to get yelled at for like jumps, BMX jumps. You spend all your time building them, and the other people don't help, and then the second you're done with them, oh man, everybody's over to come jump them and stuff. So that I think Brian Valley used to call them vultures. They would circle around watching your work, and as soon as you're done, they would swoop in and take advantage of it. And in this case, this kind of promotion vulturing, we got all the promotion done. And, last few hours before it, we got canceled out of it, and somebody ran away with the promotion we were doing. They got their own people going. And for all I know, this happens a lot. They're actually selling the space to somebody else using your promotion. And that's just a big fat bummer. And I don't know a way to keep that from happening besides even stronger contracts. But, so much of this stuff is so guerrilla. Especially when these kids are willing to play for free and everything. So, who knows what happened? Kind of a real bummer. We might have a thing to make up for it tomorrow morning at a farmer's market here, which would be awesome. And so I'm hoping to hear something about that. But man, pulling somebody's momentum for your soul, man, that is trying to keep the explicit tag off my podcast here. So I also had a recording. I think I talked about this last time, where we had, I had to record somebody in the booth, but they needed to use Skype so they could talk to their friend. And just like that long episode we did about just how hard it is to route Windows apps between them, the situation was this. I needed to be able to talk to them from the control room, and sorry. I needed to talk to the artist that's in my ISO booth in the other room. I needed to talk to the remote person on the Skype, and I needed to be able to record our ISO guy here. I needed to record the Skype thing so that they'd have an easy time lining it up for editing. And so I've got Skype in here, and then I'm sending what I'm hearing from Skype from them out to the ISO booth. I'm taking the ISO booth mic and recording that into Reaper, and at the same time I have to send that to the remote person in Skype. They don't have a monitor, or they don't have a video monitor in there. I've just got one in here. It doesn't do any good. So, aside from this routing, that is just a super pain because, luckily I had RME with Total Mix. And in fact, I think on the screen you can kind of see what I was doing here. I actually have to change some of this out because I'm not doing this ever again like that. But, just how hard it is to move stuff around in Windows or Mac for that matter. So first of all, I think I can run another monitor into that room. That would be cool, like a video monitor, I mean. But the other thing is, I need to get a webcam into there, and it's kind of far, maybe 30 feet of cable, and I could put a webcam in there. But is there a way to make a USB cable that long without it making trouble? I've seen the active USB cables. Would that actually fix this problem? Let me know. So in that, my routing was, that's just a pain. Like, I can't even describe it to you. It's so complicated. What I ended up having to do, like send my talkback mic to both Skype and stuff over RME, send a loop back into Skype, send Skype out into another loop back that I send out there. Oh man, what a pain. It's so complex. It's hard to remember this stuff. It's just really painful. I'm looking at it now. I hope I've reset it the way it was. I think I have to rewrite this and redraw this. But yeah, I did want to put a big shout out right now to draw.io. It's a website, integrates with your Google Drive and everything, and lets you just draw what you want. I was able to draw a flowchart for some software I'm working on. Hey, yeah, that's right. I'm coming back with some more software, and hopefully that should be out very soon. I'm going to need some beta testers. What kind of projects I usually do. I usually just aim at making life simpler for engineers, right? I don't really do much of the flashy stuff. Just like Reaper, all I wanted to do was make our lives easier. I want to get the ergonomics up. I want to get the time you spend having to do certain tasks down, so you're not killing yourself over stuff. And I am going to have something out I hope you guys really like. I was super scared about getting it scooped every year around NAMM time. I see somebody's about to build one, but hopefully I'll get mine out in time. And thank you to everybody who's been helping, especially Matt Cat Music. Thank you so much. I know we're always butting heads, but you really came through this time, so thank you so much. But yeah, draw.io. This thing is awesome. Really, if you guys who can see my screen right now, I've drawn like routing to things. I'm going to move this around. You see that? It moves, it handles all the moving for you. I want to undo that, and so I don't save that. But anyway, it's very awesome. It's free as far as I can tell. At least I'm using the free version, and it's killer. I can print this out. I can do whatever I want. This is awesome. Go check it out, draw.io. Just draw.io. Absolutely killer free software. I can't thank these guys enough. If you guys are hearing this, I'd like to talk to you. I'd love to have you on. If there's anything I can do to help you guys promote, you guys are awesome. Okay, so I was talking to the new bands. Some of you guys know our 8-year-old kids were able to set up Reaper Live, which meant they were setting up a computer rack. They were actually, so they would come to the school, open up the closet, and wheel out a rack, a roll-around rack that had a computer, a rack-mounted computer in it, audio interface, a Wi-Fi setup, and they would wheel this over to wherever they were playing a show. If they were playing a closed show like the Farmers Market or Board Riders, they just wheel it over, down the street, then across Hamakua Drive, and they'd get in the bar, they'd set it up. It's 8-year-olds we're talking about. They set up the computer, they'd set up the PA, they'd set up, they knew how to set up everything. They knew how to get everything going. But a lot of our newer kids didn't have to do that. They don't even know how to set up simple PAs. And, especially with singers, if they haven't had a lot of experience, Most of the time, I don't know how it is. You might live in someplace nice like Austin where they really have nice live setups everywhere. But for the most part here, you're lucky if you're getting a pair of PA speakers. You're going to be playing in front of them. You don't have monitors, so you're going to be in front of the PA speakers, which means feedback. So you have to get, and even if you're playing a show at some venue, they're live guys. I mean, you've seen how they mic amps here in Hawaii. I don't want to go over it again, but chances are your live sound guy is not going to be very good. And you're probably still not going to have monitors, or maybe you are, but you're probably not going to. And so you're really dealing with the worst of the worst kind of situation. So you, as an artist, have to take care of a lot of stuff. And that means you have to be your own compressor. You have to get your dynamic range pretty narrow. And at the same time, you have to have your signal to noise ratio way up there. That means pretty much yelling into the mic. So one of the things that means is, and you recording people kind of know this, but this is even more important live. Loud and volume are two different things. And I know how weird that sounds, but it's true. Loud and volume are two different things. You can sound like you're playing really loud, even if you're singing pretty quiet. There's a sound to being loud. Things are a little bit harder. They might be a little bit thinner. It might be a little bit more distorted, but there's a lot of things that happen when you're loud compared to when you're quiet. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that the volume has to be way up there. And especially for you guys who take pitch and volume to mean the same thing, where you have to sing louder to sing higher or whatever. This is really hard. But when you're doing this with the crappy live setup, you're really going to have to get as loud as you can, or have as much volume as you can in that mic, so that they don't have to turn you up. Because the more they have to turn up your mic preamp, the more you're chancing some feedback. So you've just got to get that dynamic range down so there's not much swing in it, but you still have to be able to sound loud when you want to sound loud and sound quiet when you want to sound quiet, but pretty much at the same volume. So that's something really tricky, in that you live guys, Ed Rye especially, and Heather, hopefully you guys have some tips about that, because that is a really hard thing to do. And I'd really like to hear some more about that. I'm going to be away for 2 seconds. You guys keep your questions coming, and then remind me to get back to that I'm done with live signal to feedback ratio. Oh, yeah.
Purple matching.
That's cool. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm back. Question in the chat about reported latency versus round trip latency, or they didn't say round trip, but actual latency, what you're actually hearing. I call it round trip latency. I think everybody else who messes with this calls it round trip latency. Basically, that's how long it actually takes, not what's reported. Okay, let me stop getting off on a tangent. That's how long it actually takes between when you first hear what you're playing, or sorry, when you play something and when you first hear it back. And I think PreSonus has a good web page about round trip latency versus reported latency. But what that is sorry for the drums. That's just how it's going to be. It's so your converter latency. So whatever you're playing, it's going to go through some analog to digital converters. There's some latency there. Then it's going to go into your, like if we're on Windows, your ASIO input buffer. And then it's going to go into the computer and whatever the DAW, and whatever the DAW is doing to it. Could be zero latency there. Then it's going to go out your ASIO buffer, that much latency. And there may be some hidden safety buffers. There usually are. and then it's going to go into your converter. So there's going to be some converter latency there on the output. And then finally, you're going to hear it again. So that's where your latency is coming from. So when you see these guys going, hey man, I got 3 milliseconds latency. No, you're not. Well, maybe you are, but for the most part, you're not, because you're just looking at the reported latency in your DAW. And the reported latency is just what the drivers report to the DAW. It's not the total system latency. You can measure the total system latency in a number of ways. You can do a loopback test with plugging a cable from the output back to the input, and turning off any kind of delay compensation you have in your DAW so you don't fool yourself. I didn't want to burst his bubble. There was a thread in Reaper where the guy was saying, "Man, I'm getting 1 sample latency," but no, his auto delay compensation whatever thing in Reaper was turned on, and so that's what he was measuring. And we were sad to have to tell him. I didn't actually say anything, but somebody else had to. But that's the difference between your reported and your round trip latency, or your what it says. Because you're like, man, it says I got 6 milliseconds and it feels a lot more. But on another note, and I know this becomes another one of these religious arguments, but in general, if it's under 13 milliseconds, in my experience, people don't really mind it unless you're hearing the dry path at the same time. Like if you're singing and you're using some semi-open headphones and you can hear both your voice and what's coming back from the DAW at the same time, that can be problematic. I usually deal with it by putting some effects in there, but it's not ideal. Something like ASIO direct monitoring might be a good idea in this case, because there's some problems. Like let's just say, hey, I just won't include the dry sound, but then when you go to play it back, they're going to want to hear what they already sang. So it's kind of tricky. Maybe ASIO DM's a thing. I haven't even messed with that in 10 years at least. But now they got an RME again. Maybe there's some way to make this thing work. I don't know. Is there a way to report that you're recording or not from Reaper to Total Mix? If so, that'd be awesome. Maybe I'll actually think about that. So somebody remind me. But anyway, that's the answer to that question. What I want to know is, we had such good luck with that Rapco DB100 Direct box. That thing tested better than my radials. That was amazing. So that's like a $30 or $40 device when it was sold. And now they don't sell it anymore. And I think Horizon bought Rapco, and they're selling one called the DB1. And I'm wondering for you guys, if anybody's tried it, is it as good as the DB100? You guys know I don't make any money, so my car registration is expired. So I'm saving all my pennies for car registration. So as soon as I got that done, if I get some money, I'm actually going to buy one of those DB1s and try it. But if anybody's tried it, let me know. Let me know if it's as good as that DB100, or if anybody wants to send me one, I'll measure it and send it back. I'm seeing a lot of threads, especially on Ultimate Guitar and the gear page, about the Focusrite 2i2 distorting when people are using the DI input. With hotter guitar pickups, and I'm wondering. Most of the time, it's the Gen 1 Scarlett, and we know that one doesn't have that much headroom. So if you are running that, and you can find one of these DB100s, put that in, and you're going to be doing yourself a huge favor. If not, I'm wondering if that DB1 would work for that. So let me know. Is that thing going? Another note, I'm sorry, this one's just pretty much updates. I'm not seeing too many questions, and I didn't have a guest on. Speaking of which, though, I really almost sure that next week I will have Jim Roseberry on. That will be awesome because I got so many questions for him, and I know you guys do too. But I did see that somebody's maintaining the Standing Water Studios extension for Reaper. I saw in the Reaper forum that somebody was still building stuff for it. I'm wondering about SWS Live configs. Now, for those of you guys who saw when we were doing LBX Stripper, which was awesome, Michael Schnell, who was doing some really cool scripts and plugins to make Reaper work better as a live pedal board, and Adam Lovat, I think is his name, was he had the name DP on there. Dave something. They were making some really killer plugins for making auto crossfades for like guitar effects and stuff. But SWS Live Configs was really awesome as well. It just had a long switching time. So I'm wondering if that's been fixed. I asked about it. Nobody answered me. If you know, let me know. And then the last thing, and I know I talk about this a lot, but look, if you want to learn how to record guitar cabinets and stuff and learn a lot about miking, that's awesome. Go ahead and do it. It's really fun, and it's really educational, miking guitar cabinets. But look, if you want to get work done, I know whatever, true believers and Luddites and stuff, you're all going to hang me for this, but just use the impulse. Even if you have a really good studio, you're probably not going to beat well-recorded impulses. I mean, you're really not. You know, I know you believe in all kinds of speaker cable magic and magic mojo in the room or whatever, but, you know, unless you got a pretty big room or a very absorptive room, I mean, at all frequencies, not just the high ones, you're probably just going to make a muddy recording, man. These impulses are hard to record well. And I don't know if you guys remember the chunk chamber we had at Vintage. That was a lot of real estate we gave up in order to be able to record guitar cabinets. You know, it was insane, actually, the amount of space you had in there compared to how much space we needed for absorption. It's still not perfect, but it's real good. And I've seen the rooms that people record these impulses in, and they're like that. So, you know, if you're doing something for academic reasons or for fun reasons, you know, by all means, put microphones in front of guitar cabinets. But if you're trying to get work done and your clients are paying you by the hour or whatever, just use an impulse. And that's all I really got for tonight. And I'll talk to you guys later. Like I said, I got Jim Roseberry next week. I hope. He said so we'll see. So that is dropping in a Pipeline Audio, signing out. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, whatever, all the YouTube stuff. And share this stuff, please. I need a lot more people watching this before YouTube lets me do the good stuff. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.